This episode is brought to you by High Point Market. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I'm Laura Umansky, your co-host, here with Melissa Grove. And today on the podcast, we have Rebekah Zaveloff. She is the co-founder and creative director of Imparfait Design Studio, an interior architecture and design firm that celebrates character-driven design and the beauty found in places and things that endure over time. Influenced by her fine arts education and years spent working in hospitality, bless you, and set design for film before building Imparfait and its sister brand Kitchen Lab Interiors, Rebekah's design work can be seen all over the place. If you haven't heard of her, I'd be shocked. And if you haven't, no pressure. We're gonna meet her today and talk all about Imparfait and Kitchen Lab. And I think that's where we kick off. So welcome, Rebekah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I've been very much looking forward to this. So
awesome. Well, we were just on the Adriana Hoyos panel in High Point Market. And so we talked all about luxury. I don't know. I feel like that's talked to death. We can get to luxury later. Right now, what I really want to know about is you just rebranded or launched Imparfait Studio. And so I want to know all about the decision making behind like Kitchen Lab, which you've been doing for so long, and the launch of Imparfait. How did that all come about? Tell us about you and your background a little bit for people that don't know.
yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. So my background, we'll start there because it's easier, and then I'll jump into the branding thing. So my background is in fine arts. I started out as an artist in high school, actually. I went to a fine arts high school in my senior year. Then studied art at UCLA, transferred to the Art Institute in Chicago, and waited tables the entire time. So I waited tables for about 15 years.
As you did.
And and honestly, it was probably the single most influential thing I have done in my life that has taught me the most. Dealing with people in the moment, having to make snap decisions, having to be authentic and real, not making shit up. Am I allowed to swear?
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
Okay, good. Yay. I love it. All of the things that you really, people eat you alive. Like you just can't fake it. And you have to really learn. And also the people that you work with will eat you alive if you suck at your job, and they will tell you in the moment. I mean, it is none of this like safe space. Let's sit down and talk about our feelings in a respectful way. There's none of that.
There's no psychological safety in the restaurant business.
No. No. And it was the 80s and 90s. And so therefore it was like a lot less PC and things like that, where people weren't as concerned about, all the things that we are today. So I definitely grew up in that era, and it was hugely influential. It also just taught me a lot about what people expect, what a customer or a client expects when it comes to service, good food, environment, all of that stuff. And even when I was waiting tables, I actually worked with one of my bosses and a couple of other people, because I was an art student, where we would help design the spaces. I mean, I've poured an acrylic bar before. We were coming up with color schemes, like literally doing a lot of that stuff ourselves. So it was a pretty scrappy period in Chicago. I waited tables in LA and in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from originally. And that just, it's my husband and I met in the restaurant business. My roommate worked for him. I had, a lot of people that owned, and he was a partner. And we still, like, his old partners and some of our friends are still in it to this day. I am so grateful I'm not. I could not.
Oh my God, it's
this
so
age.
tough,
Oh
isn't
my
it?
God. The idea of being up until 1:00 in the morning until you have to close out the bar and all that stuff is just too much. So
Not
yeah,
too
I'm
tired.
really glad we're not on that side of the table anymore, that side of the bar anymore. Still love to entertain. It taught me a ton about entertainment, but I would say that mostly it's about environment and vibe. Like I always go back to restaurants and hotels whenever I'm designing. Is one of the most influential parts of my the way that I do things, and not just in an aesthetic way, not just in like, oh, it's such a beautiful room, it's such a pretty, whatever. It's all about the way it feels, and everything for me is about the way it feels. I mean, it's the most important thing. And it's funny because I was just talking to a junior designer about this, where, someone will say in business or at some point in your career, like, don't take it so personally. And my answer to that is, how else are you supposed to take it? I mean, everything we do is so personal. It doesn't matter what we're doing. And I think that that's one of those misnomers that people, say or try to, teach people little, things about how to handle business situations. So again, everything I do is just very personal. It comes from very much a sense of wanting to make people feel a certain way when they enter a room. One of the biggest compliments I ever got actually was from an architect who came into a house that we did, and we're collaborating with him on the house next door now that they're merging. And he's like, "Have you ever worked in hospitality in design?" And I was like, "No, but that's a huge compliment." So not technically, but yeah. So I love that. Um, the art part of my background, I started in sculpture, and then moved on. And I was like, I welded in high school. I was like, really hands-on, heavy-duty stuff. And then I moved into painting and eventually printmaking and film. And I kind of ran the whole gamut. So I'm very much a mixed media artist, and I'm very much a mixed media designer. And the collage, I ended up in collage, and collage was really like painting was never my thing. I hated the blank canvas. It terrified
God, I
me.
hated painting too.
Oh god. And I wasn't terrible at it. It wasn't
Mm.
that I was bad at it. It just the pressure of
Of
subject
subject
matter,
matter.
of narrative was just something that really intimidated me. And I think at 18, 19, I just didn't think I had much to say. And if I did, it was usually like angsty and not something I wanted to share with the world. So
Share it through collage. It's a
it,
better format.
it's collage just allows you so what I learned with collage is being able to put two things next to each other, just make a whole new language, right?
Yeah.
So, when I discovered sort of like my love for vintage interiors, but like modern lighting or modern pieces of furniture, I love vintage architecture with modern furniture in particular. It's like, wow, you just create this whole new language that is sort of irreverent. It doesn't follow a style. It's more based on what you like and what you respond to. And since I wasn't formally trained, technically, I mean, I went to interior design school for my second stint for 2 years, but I never worked for another firm.
Mm.
So, I that really gave me a lot of foundation, I think, that I would have if I hadn't had it would have been harder to probably start out on my own. So let's see, let's cycle back to like 1998, right? Where I was done with the Art Institute. I went to Harrington. So I studied interior design at Harrington while I was waiting tables still again, and still all through that period. And then in around 2003, I worked for another firm for 5 years, which was a kitchen design firm. So I got my first job in college when I was actually in my associate's degree for interior design at a kitchen design firm. And what
Okay.
was interesting about it at the time was that my husband's an amazing cook. He's not a chef, but he was always the expediter in the restaurant, always very involved. He's a great cook. And kitchen design was really appealing to me because it was a problem solving part of the industry where it wasn't subjective. It was
Yep.
like, I didn't have to convince a client which beige sofa and why. Does that make sense? It was
Yes.
technical. I didn't have to argue with people about their taste. It made a lot of sense to me. It was very practical, which is funny because I avoided architecture school because I'm not the most like, how to explain this? Like, I'm not, my attention to detail when it comes to inches or, you know what I mean? That kind of thing was never there. But oddly now I can spot something off a quarter inch a mile away.
Yeah.
So, at the time. Um, and anyway, so I ended up starting going out on my own at my husband's push in about 2003. I'd worked for a kitchen design firm for 5 years. It was kind of a mess. The place was kind of a tax write-off for the owners. So,
Yeah.
but I learned a ton. I learned everything I know from the contractors that I worked with. And I highly recommend to younger designers or anybody working in this field that learning construction, understanding construction is I feel as strongly about that as I do about the restaurant business influence. The contractors I worked with, I learned so much from. I mean, you can't, it's not just about designing and saying you figure it out. It's understanding how things go together, understanding that the choices you made can make something more expensive or less expensive or more of a headache or less of a headache. And I think that it's again, problem solving. So it's
We
a lot of
talk about
problem
that
solving.
all the time in our studio, especially to the younger designers.
Yeah.
You can't just put it on paper and hope. Like,
Hope.
hope is
Hope
not a
is not a
strategy.
strategy.
Yes. Get on site, see how it's executed. Talk to the contractor about how they're actually gonna put this together and work with them. You don't have to do it
Yes.
in a vacuum and try to figure it out.
No,
Go to
and you don't have
somebody.
to know it. There's
Yeah.
no this whole idea that you have to know everything. Like, no, ask
No.
questions, ask for advice, have them teach you because usually they're the ones figuring out anyway. And all you have
Yeah.
to do is be on a large project with an architect where the architect hasn't really figured out the details, and then the contractor's doing it in the field, or the carpenter is. So, so I think it's so important. I love that hope is not a strategy. We
It is not.
clearly not.
Figure
My
it
husband were here,
out.
he'd be like, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's not.
So
And so it's also about being conscientious. It's about thinking about how what you're doing is affecting other people down the line. And I
yeah,
think that, whether it's, the font size and your designer's drawings for a client that's 70 years old, or how you communicate to a contractor, being thoughtful is something that is really important to me. And I think
totally.
it really helps us in our business. So yeah, so I went out on my own, started Kitchen Lab. It started as Kitchen Lab. And that's actually what, we copyrighted. And after, let's see, in 2006 we did our first whole house. And so we have been doing whole home since 2006. And as my husband would like to say, or would say if he were here, our working title for our new company was "We don't just do fucking kitchens."
How do we get away from just doing fucking kitchens?
Exactly. And what's so funny about the word kitchen, it doesn't matter if you have Kitchen Lab interiors, Kitchen Lab whatever, it doesn't matter if you have whole houses on your website. The word kitchen is just such a visceral word for people.
Yeah,
It's
very.
like, it is so specific, right? And I mean, if we had done it in French, I don't think it would have had the same effect, but it just is. And so finally we toyed with the idea of rebranding for years. Okay. So from 2006 on, we're like, okay, I think we did Kitchen Lab interiors in, like, let me think about this. It's maybe 10 years ago, is when we rebranded that. And that was precipitated by some other things as well. But we decided to go that direction. We redid our website. We had a business coach at the time who really kind of gave us bad advice, I think, because she's like, oh, Kitchen Lab interiors is great. And we really should have ripped the Band-Aid off at
Yeah.
that point. So circle to 2 years ago, our 20th anniversary for Kitchen Lab, and we decide we're going to rebrand in anticipation of this, this big anniversary. We're going to do it. So we hire a branding person, we do the whole team. We didn't hire PR or anything until after the fact, which is a whole nother subject. And we literally got frozen at one point because two reasons. The name that we wanted to rebrand as was sort of being used by a creative agency and I had my eye on this name forever. I own the URL, everything. And so our attorneys were like, look, if you can't copyright, if you can't trademark it, you can't do it. Like, you just don't want to do it.
That's painful.
Which is really hard. And I wanted to go for it, but Nick was like, do you want to spend the rest of your life in court, like fighting this? No, I don't. You know what I mean? So I just abandoned ship on that. And then we got stuck on another phase when we hired an SEO person, a consultant, to come on to help with with all of this as we were planning. And she was like, you guys have serious digital equity in Kitchen Lab, because we had been in business for 20 years. So we had to make a decision about what we were going to do. Are we going to rebrand, or are we going to spin off a second company? And I spoke to this gentleman who I found through Business of Home, actually, Eli Altman. And I had found him through Business of Home, listened to some of his stuff, read some of his stuff, reached out to his company. He does just naming. Okay. So I was like agonizing over the naming thing. That's all he does. He's
wow, what a fun niche.
Right? San Francisco. Like only in San Francisco can you just have a business to name companies.
I will name your stuff all day.
All day long. And he's brilliant, really. He wrote these books like Go Name Yourself. He's got a deck of cards, like very clever. And we could not afford them. Okay. So the woman who emails us back from his company is like, yeah, this is how much it is. We're like, no, we're not Silicon Valley, companies. We're not going to be able to afford this. So I email him, total Gen X moment. Don't know how old he is, but guessing that he might know what I'm talking about. And I send an email that says indecent proposal. Because I don't work hourly. I won't let someone call me and hire me for 2 hours.
No,
I'll do it for free instead. Like, I won't even bother because it's just not worth it. I don't want the contractual relationship or the, whatever the transactional relationship where they expect something more than that when we can't do that. So, so I basically said, will you give us an hour of your time? That's what I meant by indecent proposal, which is that I'm asking you to do something that I would never even do. And I get that, and he did it. He was awesome. It was so great. He reached out and we've met and talked since then, and we used him for a little bit more. We paid him for a few of his hours, But it was really great because we got to see into some, behind the curtain a little bit about how some of these other firms do things. And I am so fascinated by marketing and all of this social media stuff now. I'm so glad we have
Oh my
somebody
God,
doing it
Melissa's
for
gonna
us.
have so many follow-up questions right now because she's a marketing guru.
I know, and I can't wait because I mean, we've learned so much. And I think it's really worth sharing with people because people don't know where to start. And or they think you're trying to sell them something like when you do it,
Yeah,
for a living. It's
right.
like it's kind of the smoke and mirrors thing. So, we I came up with the name late one night when Nick and I were just pulling our hair out, cooking dinner, hanging out in the kitchen, and I said, one of the things about branding, and Melissa, I'm sure I'd love to hear your input on this, is that you're supposed to sort of boil down to the essence of who you are, like as if you're literally being tortured. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Over and
Produce,
over again,
reduce,
right?
reduce. Yes, yes.
To get to that essence, like, no, you're not this. What's more deeper, deeper, right? And so, and when it came down to it, I made some joke about being imperfect. Oh, I was actually, no, let me back up. The first name of the business was a French name, métier, which means
Huh.
what you do for a living, your trade, your passion. Okay, so it's like not just what you do, but it's also your passion. It's a great word. And in lots of we've been to France like 15 years in a row at Christmas, meeting up with family. So it's a very near and dear place to my heart. I speak enough French to be dangerous, not really. I can hear it, I can listen more than I can speak it. And I love language. I'm like a language nerd. And I love the idea of grammar and all of the tenses that that French has. And it used to be like the bane of my existence when I was studying French, but it's so interesting that there's all these tenses. And so I get into I'm in my French like dictionary or whatever I'm doing, and I'm looking for interesting words and different meanings because they are so much more nuanced. The language is so much more nuanced. I'm looking for inspiration. And I come up with like I'm doing what is it? When it's
Like
conjunction, what is it when
conjugating?
you're conjugating? Thank you. I can't even
Yep.
think of the word. Conjugating verbs, right? And so all of a sudden we come up with this imperfect tense, which is one of the conjugations for French, which is called the imperfect tense. That's where the name comes from.
Huh.
So imparfait is, yes, it means imperfect, but it also is really more referencing imperfect tense, which is an ongoing event or point of something is ongoing. It doesn't end. Does that
Evolving.
evolving. Exactly. And so
Huh.
it's so nerdy. It was right up my alley. And so I'm like, oh, and another name we're gonna have to spend the next 20 years explaining that we do. I'm like, we are gluttons for punishment.
It's really
So
funny that you bring up, like, just having all that brand equity because we've had this
I
conversation
get that
about
argument.
rebranding in the past with Laura U Design Collective because it has my name on it, which I've
yes.
regretted ever since this thing became viable. I'm like, damn it, I
Yeah.
should have named it after myself because, like,
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of stifles growth a little bit.
It,
Anyway,
it's
Melissa and I have talked about rebranding. I don't know. Melissa, jump on this because I want your opinion.
I mean, there's what you want to do and then there's what you should do. And I think that when you
good
get to a
answer.
point where you have so much brand equity in a business, it's hard to let that go because then you're starting from scratch. It's like saying
Yeah.
goodbye to all of those 20 years because that's what people knew you for. And now you have to tell them a new person basically. And so I mean, I think that you went the right route. I mean, obviously you've consulted with people who knew what they
Yeah.
were talking about, but
Yeah.
can't lose that brand equity. And it helps you build a foundation for Imparfait. I'm sure.
So those are the things that a lot of people did not comment on actually. So when I asked Eli, like we asked Eli, what should we do? He's like, do you really want to run two companies? And I was like, hell no. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't. There are days I don't even want to run one. And so there was that. But then when the SEO person was like, look, you should just not, there's two reasons you shouldn't give this up. So it's really important to get advice from different perspectives. And I
Yeah.
think a
Yeah.
lot of people do not realize that marketing is one thing, social media is something else, branding is something else, naming is something else, telling the stories and all of that is something else. Like there are people that specialize in all these things and not one person is good at oftentimes all of them. And so getting advice from different groups, I think helps you to have a better informed decision. Two things that came up. Kitchen Lab absolutely sends clients to Imparfait. So giving that up would have been just bananas.
Yeah.
Okay. So like,
Can clients toggle between the two on your website?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes,
and so
which I
we're cross-pollinating, okay? And then part of it too is that our clientele is really different. And so I've always looked at like chefs and fashion designers for sort of inspiration for how they build their brands, because I find it to be a little bit less corporate and a little bit more creative and a little bit more natural. I don't know why. I think part of it was because I grew up early days like watching Fine Living. Do you remember that TV network that was absorbed by Scripps and HGTV and all that stuff? They totally squashed it.
maybe
It
it
was
was
such
short-lived because
it was
no.
beautiful, and it was
Well,
like
and
Jamie
I
Oliver.
never watched any home design shows
Me
ever
either.
because it stressed me the hell out, and I was like,
Yeah.
"I'm not doing this on my free time."
No, but Fine Living didn't have a lot of design shows. It was almost all cooking or gardening or
Oh,
something
I'm
like
not a
that.
cook, so no, that's
Yeah,
beyond
okay.
me.
So we started by it was cooking for us. So we would watch cooking shows and then we would watch that. And so I sort of saw the rise, not rise and fall, but rise and burnout of Jamie Oliver. And he was just
Sure.
oversaturated, all that stuff. And so I was like really looking at I really found him to be so compelling and so authentic and lovely. And so watching that, see somebody get bad advice and sort of like get oversaturated and then burn out, was really interesting. And so that influenced it a lot. I'm trying to think, where were we talking about like spinning off? So equity. So first of all, Kitchen Lab sends clients to Imparfait because of the Instagram channels and all the things.
Sure,
This
sure.
is really hilarious, and Melissa, you're going to die. During this process, I realized that we did not have an official Google listing because I didn't realize that that's something you had to sign up and do. I just thought Google found you because that's what Google does
Google's just
anyway.
like, "Oh, hey, you should know about this person."
Or that they
Much
just
like
you're
life,
on.
Google, no one's looking for you.
Oh my God. So we're on like page 15 for Kitchen Lab, okay, when we sign up for our Google business listing, okay? Within 2 weeks, we are number one when you search Chicago kitchen designers or
Nice. Yeah,
Chicago
because that
kitchen design.
name.
That's 2 weeks of earned media for 20 years that the Google bots searched and found out
That is
and
a
bumped
huge lesson for everyone listening right now.
everybody. Like huge. I mean,
And
you
is that
don't have
still
any.
relevant, Melissa, even with like chat and all the
Chat,
generative AI?
absolutely. I mean, chat is still getting all of its information from the internet. Chat's not creating things on its own. So
Right.
when you have been a business for 20 years, that's something you can't buy.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you worked with a marketing agency, they could never replicate the kind of authority and relevance that you've developed over 20 years of being in business. And that's
Absolutely.
probably why your SEO person, because that's my background as well, was saying, don't get rid of that. Because you can still have people who are coming there and then funnel them off to Imparfait, which is what you're doing, which is smart.
Absolutely, which is what we're doing, and the truth is that our projects really do sort of fall into two categories and always have. And I think it was a struggle for our staff. It was a struggle for us to determine, okay, are you a kitchen lab job or are you something more? And really what we ended up doing was drawing a line in the sand and saying like under $1 million, under a year is kitchen lab, and over $1 million, over a year is Imparfait.
Okay.
Most of our Imparfait jobs now, this is the other thing that's really strange. All of our kitchen lab jobs until 2019 were remodels and additions on historic homes or existing homes. I had never
Okay.
done a new construction house until 2019. And when I did, that was our first project that was new construction. Now, 90% of our projects for Imparfait are new construction.
Whoa. Okay.
So, which is crazy. So it's like been a huge pivot for me. I mean, and
You
any
have
designer
two
who's
different types of clients, though, too, is what you're
totally
saying. Like your Imparfait clients have to be so different from Kitchen Lab.
so
So
I
different.
your
find
Yeah.
this
marketing
really
has to be so different too,
interesting
right?
too, Melissa, because we're
Yeah.
bifurcated in this way too. Within Laura U Design Collective, we have pretty much two groups, and we figured that out over time. One
Yeah.
is like the heavy construction, technical drawings, construction document, like still design.
Yeah.
And then the other is furnishings, like soft goods, more decoration. And those
Yep.
are very different things. And it's hard to do them
Very
all
different.
as the same group.
Or pivot like in a day, like, and the teams need to, they need to understand, how do we deal with these clients? How do we treat, how do we run these projects?
Totally.
Our systems, our checklists, all the things like, so, oh my God. Before we started in Parfait, I had done, you're going to laugh, Laura, I mean, Melissa, you're going to die. You're just gonna be like, we need to see some of this stuff because it's hilarious. I built out a flow chart in CAD because I could not find a program on the internet that allowed me to build a flow chart that was dynamic, and with CAD, you can zoom in and out, right? You can like
Sure.
look at and then edit. So it felt too rigid to me to be able to plug into these pretty little boxes. And I'm like, I am just going to start in CAD because it's something I understand and know. And then I'll give this to someone else to put in the pretty boxes. You know what I mean? And when I did that, I did it for Kitchen Lab, and Kitchen Labs was like, I joke, kitchens are 5 things or 6 or 7 things. You've got cabinetry, appliances, tile, lighting, plumbing, bar stools,
Electrical.
countertops. Well, forget construction. I mean, that's 7 things for finished selections, right? For your schedules. Houses, I mean, we might have, I don't even
500.
know, 10,000
Yeah.
items, right? That we're doing for a 10,000 square foot house, maybe more. It is a whole other animal.
We
And
talk about this
understanding,
all the time.
oh my God, it's crazy. I mean, it is. It's our business is crazy. And
It
so
is crazy.
it is crazy. So trying to figure out like how to explain to a client like in digestible pieces. Plus, with Kitchen Lab projects, clients are either living in the house or moving into an Airbnb. They're somewhere between 3 to 6 month projects. They're usually carrying 2 mortgages. The pressure's totally different. The
Yep.
amount of money that people spend on a kitchen sometimes is all they can do this past. They cannot afford the entire house. And that's really frustrating because you have this brand new, beautiful kitchen or first floor kitchen and butler's pantry and all the things and breakfast room. And then you want to do the rest of your house, but you just can't afford it right now. You know what I mean? And so you're just dealing with a lot of managing different needs and expectations of clients. Whereas when you start a new construction project, if someone's building a 10,000 square foot house and you know how much it costs to build a house in your region, you can tell them how much that's going to cost.
Yeah.
And they're either
Right.
they're game or they're not game. It's that simple, right out the gate. Which with a smaller project, there are small pivots you can make to adjust the budget or pull back on the scope, right? So it's different. When you're dealing with a whole house, you're like, there's no scope to cut. You have to have all of the
Right.
things that a new house, requires. The square footage could be cut, but that's it, right? Or the quality of the finishes can be cut, but
Exactly.
that's it.
Those are the two. Those
So
are the 2 levers, right? Yeah.
that's it.
Square
That's
footage.
it.
If you're a designer, then you know that High Point is the epicenter for all things interior design. All your favorite furniture vendors are there, your favorite designers, manufacturers, tastemakers, trendsetters. Market happens every April and October, and we hope you'll register and attend. We're there each market, and we're always finding something new. We know you will too. Check out highpointmarket.org for more information.
Yep.
But isn't that where your hospitality background comes in? Because you're managing expectations with 2 very different types of clients.
Yeah.
You don't want them to go off the rails. You
No.
don't want them to be frustrated when it is. Remodeling a kitchen is a frustrating situation. Like there's no getting
It's
around.
torture. Especially for people who love their kitchens. And the clients who come to us literally are the most kitchen-centric human beings you've ever met. Like our team will look at me and be like, how do you attract these people? You know what I mean? I mean, like some people do not care. Some people don't cook. No, our clients do not feel that way. So it's pretty funny. It is. It's pretty funny. So in terms of like I would just say that in terms of the experience of the rebrand we call it a rebrand, but spinning off a new company,
Right.
it seems so crazy. Like I was on a panel with Dennis Scully from Business of Home, and he's
Yep.
like, oh, it sounds so pretentious in a way. Like we spun off a sister company. I'm like, it's not that, right? It's not that.
It's
It's that you're
necessity and evolution.
and it's just clarity. It's like we needed the
Sure, yeah.
clarity. We needed to, and it was scary. It was definitely scary. But the minute we did it, the minute we started signing new clients, I knew it was the right decision. I knew that our team
Of
felt
course.
more clear-headed about who was doing what. In the beginning, we had our team on both companies. That was hard. I'm not going to lie. So the first year when
Yeah,
we
I see
were
that.
marketing, and this is all after COVID. And then we went through a weird slump. Like I think a lot of people did this
Yes.
weird period where everybody was
100%.
afraid of a recession for about 3 months in October, November, December, a couple years ago, right? Do you
Mhm.
remember that? And it was just like crickets. And then all of a sudden we got like 10 inquiries in January, which you never get, right? In
Yep.
January, it's like crazy. And so that was scary too. And it was a lot to manage the team to help them keep morale up and focus up when you're dealing with them spanning 2 companies and having to deal with 2 different types of clients.
It's
Yeah,
hard
well,
to
I feel
launch
like
when it's like the I don't know, economy or like consumer sentiment is in a weird spot.
yeah.
Somehow I always managed to freaking do that. Like when I started
Me
my first
too, Laura.
business, it was in like I started in 2006, 2007, which was terrible timing, but you learn to be gritty and just work through it and do what you have to do. So I
And if
think
you survive
actually,
that, you know you can do anything.
totally 20 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Here you
Anyway,
are.
Melissa, I cut you off. Where were you going?
Well, I think that it's a big challenge because as Laura mentioned before, we have our sort of architectural arm and then we have our interior design arm. Now, I have always just, wanted to make sure that they're operating in the same way, which is impossible. They can't.
Yes.
What they do is
Yeah.
completely different. And then even the clients that come in for the architectural arm are different than the people who just want furnishings,
Mhm.
and ideally it's one client who wants both.
Oh,
Right.
Yep.
yeah.
So I know that that's been a challenge for us in our marketing. And we're also client centric, just like you are.
Mhm.
What kinds of challenges in marketing have you seen, from this rebrand or spinning off, but also like you're dealing with two very different types of clients?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And also, it ties in perfectly to sort of the next phase of this whole thing, which is like, okay, the branding's done. We've done this deep dive, right, with this branding company where it's like going through couples therapy for your business. So, my husband and I are in business together, right? And then now we're doing these like deep dives into who we are and all these things. And then we finally get the website done and we're ready to go. And now we need to find a company to help us market this. Okay. So we're like, oh, wait a second. So I am up until like 2 o'clock in the morning, multiple nights in a row, researching. Because I'm like, we
Obsessed.
can't just hire anybody. What?
Of course not.
You're
Yeah.
obsessed.
I'm obsessed. When I am like, I am obsessed. When I get something to be in my bonnet, I cannot let it go.
I am the same way.
And I mean, it's it's a blessing and a curse.
Yes, it is.
But I just realized it hit me that we can't just hire any PR company to do this. Like it needs to be marketed properly, or the fruit's going to die on the vine, as my husband would say, right? So, we had been referred to a couple companies. We interviewed 3 or 4, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was feeling, and here's the thing. How do you find these companies? Everybody does them. There's huge ones that have multiple offices. They do, I mean, there's a million names if you Google, whatever, social media marketing. And then you interview these guys and they're always trying to, it just feels like icky. It doesn't feel good,
Well, a lot
right?
of them
It
are
just feels,
family.
yeah,
They are.
it's really interesting. And then I met some smaller companies, but they were based in the Midwest. And I mean, yes, we're based in the Midwest, but I felt like we've struggled for years with people not knowing who we are because we've never marketed. And so I felt it also needed to be a company that really understood my ethos about social media, which, to be perfectly honest, I have a very strong love-hate relationship with. I'm sure everybody feels that way.
Just
That's
really
being
quick
nice.
question. Do you have in-house marketing social media support?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
Lifesaver.
we already have that. We have a marketing foundation within the firm. Now we're going out because of this big pivot.
Not really. So I would say we hired 2 people. One was an intern and she started as an intern. And then our next one was straight out of college. So these are people that don't have a lot of experience. They're there
Okay.
to basically do our social
Support.
media, implement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't strategy. It was really implementation because
Yes.
I knew that my weakest point is implementation. I am the gal who will go shopping, spend 2 hours looking for things, get in line. And when the line is too long and I'm over it, I just am like,
Out.
screw it. I don't need any
Yeah.
of this. And I leave.
You need
I've
to be
been
able to tap a lot like a stand-in. Like in baseball, where
Can
the
you
I
stand
don't
in line for
understand
me?
this whole thing, but in baseball, Melissa, you can tell me when that guy gets to first base and then they tap someone else in. What the hell's what are
A
they
pinch
doing?
runner.
There you go. That's what you need. for
I didn't know
shopping.
that. I don't even know what that is. Okay. I'm not that. Sports
Melissa's
is
a big
not my
Cubs fan,
strong suit.
so I get to hear about it sometimes.
Got it. That's awesome. Can't say I'm a sports. I'm not a sports fan except for my daughter's volleyball. So,
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
just had a
like that.
sports analogy, everyone. This is a big deal. Like I didn't know what it's called. Pitch hitter?
They have pinch hitters also, designated hitters, but you're talking about a pinch runner.
Pinch
Pinch
runner.
runner. She sounds so confident and knowledgeable.
That
is.
was one thing I know. We could talk about that for.
She knows
I love it. I
Anywho,
love it.
I digress.
And that's hilarious. That's all right. Digression is just part of life. So where was I? Oh gosh. Perimenopause brain.
You're hiring an outside PR firm.
Yes, we're hiring an outside PR firm. And so I reached out to this company online. It's PR.net. And I have no idea. It's like a clearinghouse type of situation. And I email them and they email me back. And they're like, we will connect you with 2 firms. What are you looking for? And I fill out a form and they put me in touch with 2 different firms. And in New York.
I'm shocked
and
that worked.
Yeah.
I know, me too. And so PR.net, shout out to you because it was awesome. And I was just trying everything. I was just literally throwing
If I learned
everything at
anything
the
from
wall.
this podcast, Rebecca, it's just like, just email somebody and ask for it. Like, just
There you
just do
go.
it.
I
Or
love it,
pick up the
Melissa.
phone. Yeah.
And actually DMing people on Instagram too.
Yes.
Like we hired somebody who did that because I thought it was so gutsy. And I love that, you
And
know,
decent proposals across the board.
across the board. That should be just the name of the podcast.
Decent proposals.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So we ended up interviewing 2 companies. We actually reached out to a bunch of different companies. A bunch of them were busy. They were not taking on new clients, which is nuts, right? You would think. So you've
Yeah.
got these huge companies that are like, we'll take on anybody. And then you've got these companies that are more boutique that are like, we're booked. We can't take on any more people. I was looking for someone who specializes in representing in creatives, right? So you don't want someone who also does like Coca-Cola. It just doesn't make sense. You're not going to get, it's no different than people hiring
Your
us for
niche.
specialization. So that's what it clicked for me. I was like, wait, we can't just hire anybody. This is not just a commodity. This is a relationship. They need to understand who we are. They need to be able to represent us properly. And it was like a big aha moment. And the other thing that was a real trip about all of this was being a client for the first time. And so I don't know.
Nice to be buying instead of selling.
Isn't it? And also to feel like what you're buying, you're getting you're getting value.
It's actually really valuable perspective.
It's a
right?
wonderful perspective to feel good about your purchases rather than like having buyer's remorse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want our clients to feel this way. We want our
100%.
clients to feel so taken care of and like we're paying attention to them and we're hearing what they need and what they want. And so I have loved being a client for these gals that we worked with. So Carrie Lannon is the one who did our branding, Lannon Consulting. And then Laura Binlas from Nylon is who is our marketing and PR and social media strategy. And so it's like a partnership. It's really, and you know, I'll tell you too, we signed up for a second year. I'm still happy. It's like,
Good.
it's amazing. We talk about things like
That's incredible.
I know. And I mean, usually you hire someone and then they just charge you every month and you never feel like like once they sign you, they just sort of, it just drops off. Their interest in you drops off.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
this is an excellent outcome. I'm happy to hear that it's worked for you. We've done it in the past some, and it's never truly worked for us, even when we gave it a lot of runway. So this is interesting. I think it's a really good flip side of what we've experienced.
Totally. And I think that people should expect, this is like what you want to have as a benchmark for what you expect when you pay for something. And yes, we're paying a lot, you know what I mean? And it's not cheap, but when people, but we don't have any overhead. I mean, we have a studio in Lakeside, Michigan. We have our building in Chicago that we've owned for 20 years. Everybody's distributed on our team. Everybody works from home. We get together once a week, a couple of us every 2 weeks. We get together once a quarter, our entire team. So our overhead there is low. And so this is our overhead and it's worth every penny.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I knew by doing a little bit of research that we ended up having, we really needed to hire a firm in New York or LA just because of access to editors, access to events, access to all the things that are happening. It just needs to be that way. It's easier for us to get to New York. It's an hour flight or hour and a half flight. And we've literally been like 6 times this year. So it makes it a lot easier. And on top of that, we pushed back our launch date because Laura couldn't take us on for a month because she was onboarding new people. So again, I mean, we waited. Like this is what we want our clients. See, our clients do, right? These are our goals.
Wait. Everyone listening, take that away. They will wait.
It will wait. I waited, and I'm not a waiter. I'm not patient.
No,
Let me tell
you need a pinch runner.
Exactly. So it was so interesting. So she's like, I can't start with you until November 4th. And I'm like, how are we going to launch this by the end of the year during the holidays? Terrible idea. Not happening. Bingo. Guess what? Oh, well, your house is not going to be done by Thanksgiving. You're going to live. It'll be fine if you want it done right. Right.
Right.
So I had to drink my own Kool-Aid. I had to take my own pills. You know, I had to like listen to my own advice. And so we did it. We waited. We did a soft launch, and it was a great decision to do a soft launch kind of November-ish. We did even though our anniversary party ended up, in November when they flew in from New York to come, and it was snowing like November
Ugh.
4th. And it was like traffic was insane. Flights were insane. But we had this great 20th anniversary party at one of my favorite antique dealers in Chicago, South Loop Loft. And it was
Oh,
such
that's
a perfect
fun.
backdrop. Yeah, it was great. It was a fun idea that I had last minute because I was like, where do we want to have a party? It's not going to be in some room in a hotel. Like,
So we're
blah.
coming up
Yeah.
on our 20th, and we need to do the same
Yeah.
thing. I
It's
like
all
that idea.
about
That's kind of
backdrop.
fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And it's cross pollination and it
Yeah.
shares, that kind of thing with someone you love. So that all happened. And then in January, we hit the ground running with a full, like they didn't give us their whole presentation till January, and we had to be patient and wait. And it was probably the best decision that we made.
Okay.
And we're actually going to New York. We're going into our second year. We're going to New York in a couple weeks to sort of have a strategy meeting.
Cool.
And again, you have to advocate for yourself because we already had sort of our planning meeting for the year. But then after High Point, I had all of these questions and ideas and thoughts that I wanted to talk to Laura about. And so she's like, I just kind of brain dumped them in my voice memo. I
Yeah.
literally just talked to my phone all day long. And that's my pitch hitter. There you go. It's my you should see my notes. And she's like, let's meet. Let's do this in person. Let's keep the momentum going. So that was a huge part of it, is having the partnership and the right team to do the right thing. And launching a business, like, for example, if you're young and starting out, you're in a totally different position. You can't spend $10,000 a month on marketing. We had equity. We have a 20-year company. We could budget this and all of that kind of stuff. But thinking about who you're hiring, like we looked at a lot of places online that help you do strategy for a lot less money. There's lots of, workshops and consulting. There's just like with our business where there's design camp and, certain seminars that you can go to, or
Yes.
High Point and whatever. There are things out there like that for marketing. And that's what I loved about your podcast with Laura, with Erica Sorit, because she referenced that too, that not
Yep.
everybody can afford to do it right out the gate. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It shouldn't intimidate you. It just means that you just have to start smaller and build on
Right.
it.
I like that
So
advice because, I mean, yeah, there are obviously layers to our design clients. There's different types of design firms to serve different clients, different
yes,
types to serve a startup design firm in marketing. Like you may have to bootstrap it, and you probably will.
you
But
probably will.
it's that strategy is important no matter how
Yeah.
you arrive at it. Strategy
Yeah.
from day one.
Yeah.
Naming is important.
Yes. And showing up. So this is something else that Laura would say, which I actually want to do more panels with her, because I mean, we are her poster child for success when it comes to actually doing what we were supposed to do. So because we had someone in-house that was not paid a fortune because she's, straight out of school, and the one before was an intern, so it's a more affordable, salary that we have to pay. She implemented. And if we didn't have those
Yeah.
people, we would not have been this successful in growing our reach and growing our profile and
Critical.
getting
You have
clients that
to
we've gotten.
do the work.
Have to do the work. You cannot just hire
Strategy
someone
is
just to
one
do it.
thing. Strategy is one thing. Execution is a completely different beast.
And people don't realize that. And I don't know if I really realized that. Like when I realized that we had to do this, I was like, oh God, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to, there are just days I just don't feel like being on social media.
Absolutely.
So
But I think it's so clear with marketing too, because I deal with this challenge here in the studio. All of the ideas sound really, really great, but they're worth nothing if you're not available to be in front of the camera, if you're not there to do it, and if you don't have somebody to execute it.
yep,
And I don't
exactly.
want to be in front of the camera all the time, but it's great that some of the team does. So they kind of
Yes.
offset my reluctance to do that.
Yes. And I mean, and you're on podcasts too. I mean, it's draining to show up like this every day, to be super present. I mean, for extroverts, it's like you get your cup is filled, but there are just days where you're like, I have been on the phone all day. I don't want to talk to
Yeah.
anybody for like 6
Yeah.
hours, or
That's
in
what I say. I'm
Zoom or
like, I'm
whatever it is.
on all the time. I'm tired. Like I'm going to hibernate in my bed now. Like, bye.
Yes. And we need to give ourselves the permission to do that. And I do think that that's one of the things with social media, is that there's this like the pressure and expectation that you should be on all the time and want to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And that's just not healthy. It's not, it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And I also think that it's really important for us to get out of the algorithm as much as we I tell my clients, like, I don't know about you, Laura, but if you guys have this problem where it's like a client will say to us after we've spec something like, well, I feel like I'm seeing that everywhere, that bar stool. I'm
No.
like, You are seeing it because you added it to your Pinterest board. And now it's serving up to you all of the things over and over and over again.
That's
It's
a
not
really good point. They
real.
end up in like a sofa echo chamber. So I think, we run into the same thing with clients and we're just like, stop shopping, stop looking. Once we have decided, we've decided, and now we're in execution, and that's important for them.
No,
too.
can I ask you a question? How do you say that to clients in a way that is
I literally say, we are at the point where we stop. We stop shopping. There's always going to be something better out there. Trust me. We see something new and exciting every single day. That does not negate what we've already done for your design.
different is not always better.
Right. New is not always better.
Right.
So we literally will say, stop shopping. Like you're hurting your own
Or buy a
brain
second home and
emotionally.
start planning for that.
Yes, we say that too. Okay, now we need a beach home. Now we need a mountain home. Like that's for the
Save
next
that for your
one.
beach home. Right. See, exactly.
We're just really open and authentic like you are with
Yeah.
your clients. We just tell them straight up, stop shopping.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the other thing I think that designers, all of this, it's like, even when you're working, that's what I loved about being a client when I was working with Laura. It's like, stop looking at other people's this or stop doing, you know what I mean? Where someone can advise. And I learned so much about being a client from being a client. Does that make sense? And it was great. I mean, it was one of the best experiences. And it's taught me so much. And I still to this day, like I even had her send me over an outline of her retreat with her team because I just love the way that she's managing these gals. I mean, they came in for a photo shoot. We did the whole shoot here. We did designer home tours, video, she just has them so on top of things. And I was like, I love this. I love watching how you run your team. And so one of the things I would also advise client or designers to do is listen to things outside of your business. Listen to podcasts about other things, other companies, other businesses, how other people are doing things. My husband and I pay a lot of attention to what's going on in tech and in California and whatever, and how these companies are doing things. And we tend to model ourselves similarly because we think it's very forward thinking. And whether it's the fact that we pay for all health insurance or we have a really nice, vacation package and time off package, it's like we want to be sticky. We want to keep our employees. Attrition and turnover is one of the hardest things in this business. And especially because of the long-term relationships. I mean, this is not like someone leaves in 2 weeks and you can put another account rep on their job, right? I mean, there's a relationship there. And so keeping people is really important.
I think that's one of the hardest things, but it is one of the most important. So
it is.
This has been like packed full of so much good information. I think we leave it here and like, if you're listening, if you're a startup, there's so many things you can apply here. If you've been in business and you're going to pivot, there's so many things you can apply here. Thank you so much, Rebekah. This has been amazing. Really appreciate all your
insight. I feel like we could talk for 3 hours. So
there's like 10 topics we need to go into. So we may have to,
Absolutely.
We're going to have a part 2.
We have to
okay. That sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Laura and Melissa. I can talk without taking a breath if you didn't notice. So.
No, it's amazing. Like, yeah, I'm going to have to go back and just like bullet point this for myself. Like there's so many good things here. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.